All right, so here we have our next problem. Copy it down. We're going to go ahead and now find all of these information and graph it. Now, if you look at this, what type of equation is it? Well, this actually happens to be a hyperbola, but it's not in that nice form that we like, something kind of like this. So this is in general form, and we want to convert it to standard form. So again, we want to take this and convert it from general form, where we can't really find any of the information, and convert it to standard form. So how do you do that? You do it by completing the square. So first you get your y's together. Well, there's only one y. You get your x's together and you move your constant to the other side. It's already to the other side. So now you have y squared, well, pretty much the same thing. Now looking at your x's, you're going to go ahead and see what they have in common. So you're going to factor out a -5. Now when you factor out a -5, this is going to be -5x squared, and this should actually be -4x. So this would give you -5x squared, -5 times -4, positive 20x. And now we're going to complete the square for this. Again, you can only complete the square if you have a 1 coefficient here, so that's why you pull out that -5. So to find this term here, it's half your middle term squared. So half of -4 is -2. -2 squared is +4. And this number will always be positive. Then you're going to go ahead and write it as a perfect square. Oh, you added 4 here. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. What would you add to this side? Be careful. It's not a 4. All right, where did we get the -20 from? Well, this is really a -5x squared, a positive 20x, and a -20 right there. So that's probably going to be the part that if you mess up, it'll be that section there. Then you're going to write it as a perfect square. 5x, half your middle term. Now, the only other thing that you have to do is this has to be a 1. Well, how are you going to make this a 1? Yeah, divide everything through by 30. So now standard form is -5 goes into 36 times. You keep the minus sign because that makes it a hyperbola. If it was a plus, it would be an ellipse. And equal to 1. All right, so now we have it in standard form. We're going to go ahead and do all of this information. Okay, so now that we have this in standard form, first thing we're going to do is find the center. So our center is opposite of 2, of -2, so it's +2. And then there's no number here, so your center is going to be at 2, 0. So over at +2, 0. And then you want to think to yourself, is this oriented vertically or horizontally? Because this term is first. The y squared term is positive. That means that it's oriented vertically. You actually cannot tell by the bigger number. 30 could have been here and 6 could have been here, and it still would have been oriented vertically. All right, so we know it's oriented vertically. We need to find our a value. A value is the same way as the orientation. So square root of 30. Square root of 30 is about 5.4. So from the center vertically, we're going to go about 5.4 units, or you could just say it's square root of 30. And then our b value is square root of 6. So we're going to go, square root of 6 is about 2.4. So we'll do 2.4 units along this x. Now this is really important because you know that your vertices are going to be these, right? The same way as the orientation. But this will actually give you your guide for drawing your graph. Okay, so there's your box. You're going to use those values right there and to draw a line. So let me get a ruler. So just connecting my diagonals, and you could draw these dotted That's probably better. It's easier for me just to draw them straight. So these will be your guides for how wide your hyperbola is going to be. So it goes from here, follow it that way, this way. And again, it should not cross it because it's an asymptote. So it approaches it, but never ever crosses it. So there's your graph. Our vertices, we know these are our vertices. It's over 2 up a distance of square root of 30, over 2 down a distance of square root of 30. Or you could have said, wait, square root of 30 is about 5.4. You could have said, oh, it's 2 comma plus minus negative 5.4. All right, so we have that information. The next part we're going to do is finding our foci. So I have to go back to my formula page, find the formula, write it down. Okay, so I found the formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is square root of 30. B is square root of 6. Square root of 30 squared, those cancel out, so you're just left with 30. Square root of 6 squared, 6. Combine them, 36 equals to c squared. Square root both sides, so c value is 6. Again, the c value is the distance from your center to your focus point. So 6 units from here will give you your focus. So that's over 2 up 6, over 2 down 6. So your foci are at 2, comma, positive negative 6. You can write it together or you can write it separately. The last part is the asymptote. And again, to know the asymptote, you use your point slope formula. And then you have to find the slope and the center. All right, so we'll use point slope. So y minus y sub 1 equals m parentheses x minus x sub 1. Your center is at 2, 0. Your slope is, well, remember this distance was square root of 30 and that's square root of 6. So your slope is square root of 30 over square root of 6. Property says that you can actually combine those, square root of 30 over 6, which is just square root of 5. So your equation is going to be y minus 0 equals your slope 2x minus 2. Wait, did that wrong. Equation is going to be y minus your y value 0 equals your slope, which is 5. Now remember we have the positive version and the negative version. So we can just put a plus minus square root of 5 right there. X minus 2. You can clean it up, leave it. The 0 doesn't mean anything. And nice, they actually don't have you multiply that out, but you could. And that is, can't zoom out big enough. So that's your entire problem. And then you have the good graph. That's it.